And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay and some first impressions of the latest games releasing. You've probably heard that phrase a billion times by now, but as usual, it's me, your guide, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Little Nightmares 2. This is the follow-up to the very well-received Little Nightmares that released in 2017. Now, Little Nightmares 2 is once again published by Bandai Namco, and it's developed by Tarsier Studios, if I'm saying that right. That's a team from Sweden. And just as a heads up here, we got access to a review copy of the game, and the footage we've captured here is of the PS4 version. And note, this game is very, exciting moment heavy, so to avoid any big surprises or spoilers or anything like that, this footage is mostly limited to within the first hour of the game, because I think you should experience a lot of this stuff firsthand. So to start off, I want to answer the question I've gotten the most on social media. Do you need to play the first one? Do you need to play the original Little Nightmares? The short answer is no, not really. You're fine if you didn't play the first one, but if you did, it might amplify a few moments here and there, though. But in this story, you play as a new character, a little tiny boy named Mono, who wakes up in the middle of the woods, and that's it. You very quickly are paired up with Six, the protagonist of the original game, but it's okay if you don't really know who that is, because you just go together and you go on a linear adventure. And what follows, man, is nothing short of a pretty unforgettable and terrifying adventure filled with shockingly creative big moments. Now, I know those are some big words. It's a little bit like hyperbole, but honestly, I love this game and I highly recommend it. Know what you're getting into, a fun horror romp that isn't very long. If you played the previous game, just know that it stacks up the same here. About 4 or 5-ish hours depending on how you play and if you get stumped by puzzles or certain big moments. Now that is very short. I'm addressing this head on because that experience, that's brief, and its launch price is $30. So mileage may vary for some folks, very selective with their hard-earned cash, and for good reason. The first game had the same debate, but if you decide to go for it, you get a pretty high quality and entertaining horror experience that you might find yourself replaying just because it's all paced so well. I know I immediately jumped in to replay it, just like I've done with similar games in this subgenre, like Inside. But anyway, you explore a horror world from point to point, engaging in, for the most part, environmental puzzles, light stealth, and platforming. And you're a little person in a very big world, so once again, there's some creativity to everything being bigger than you. You drag things around, you pop things up, you drop things, you flip switches to get through areas while jumping from fire escape to fire escape, climbing up bookcases, dropping through vent shafts, always consistently moving forward so the next area is always way more interesting than the last. Like the original, if not more here, it's extremely, extremely well-paced and creative throughout, and you're gonna blast through it because you just want to get to the next thing and see what the game throws at you. Where you may encounter a little bit of trial and error gameplay, though, is with the big scary things you encounter throughout the world. These large, grotesque humanoids are gonna hunt for you, they're gonna chase you, they're gonna shoot at you, they're gonna bite at you, in some really hair-raising moments that require clever stealth and distractions and other just little things that I don't really want to spoil. The game knows just how creepy its designs are too, and how it just, all these things animate, because these creatures, these things, these people, they get right up in the screen and they will really creep you out in some good ways. Now, that leads to this. Is the game outright scream out loud scary? No, but there are some moments that will leave you really unsettled, and some great moments where you escape by the skin of your teeth that will definitely leave your heart kind of pumping. These moments can be hampered a bit by some of that trial and error. In fact, there are some spots that feel like you can't really get it on the first try no matter what, because you kind of have to figure it out by trial and error, if that makes sense. So certain big moments like cool chases or just aha moments, it kind of lessens it when you have to see it 1,000 times because you keep screwing up, Other than that, I didn't really mind the trial and error. That's something that people either love or hate. Trial and error gameplay can be like a shrug to some people or a big negative. It's up to you really, but just know that there is some trial and error heavy moments, and a few that really feel very, very finicky and sensitive to perfect timing, but it doesn't really hurt the experience overall. And it's not really like a challenge thing. There are other areas of the game that are challenging in very good and productive ways. Also, I forgot to mention, but you have Six as an AI companion with you for lots of the game, and it adds a simple little dash of creativity to the formula. Most of the time she does the typical video game helping character stuff, like helping you up to a ledge, but sometimes there's a bit more to it. Some of the best parts of the game are figuring out how to get back to her when you're separated. You know, the game, through its gameplay and its presentation, actually makes you miss a companion. That's a rare thing in games like this. She can occasionally be a little bit dumb, but it doesn't really matter because the AI always seems to do exactly what it's supposed to do, and you can call her over with the press of a button if you have to. Also, you can hold hands with the trigger. It doesn't really do much in terms of like a gameplay mechanic, but it's charming, it's there, and it actually kind of reminds me a bit of the now classic Eco on PS2. Remember that? That's the game, really. Charm. Gross, weird, horror charm. Not really Tim Burton-esque, kind of its own thing, very distinct, kind of hard to describe. The only thing that did occasionally piss me off, I gotta say, is the combat. Yes, there is combat this time around, but it's brief and it's simple. Mono can pick up the occasional melee weapon like a stick or an old pipe, and with the press of a button, you can wind up and do one big, slow, heavy hit. There's a few moments in the game where you gotta smack some bad guys around with really timing these big, slow hits properly. The window is extremely small, and that's fine, but sometimes it just feels like the camera angles make it a bit tricky to judge how close some of the enemies are to you. It could be a little awkward, and it's a bummer too, especially because like the first couple times you get a good hit, it is incredibly satisfying, but then again, the trial and error gameplay kind of lessens the effect of you being a little boy committing weird murder. It was absolutely 100% the section of the game where I died the most, and I did yell at the TV a few times because some of it felt a bit cheap, but again, it's another thing that is momentarily slightly annoying, and then you move on. That's about it. So if you played the original game, you probably understand a lot of this review. It's all the same thing. A really great game with a couple of annoying, frustrating issues like controls and mechanics. I've seen some people hoping this game was a co-op or couch co-op because of the introduction of an AI character. I'll admit, when I first saw the trailer, I thought there was going to be co-op before even looking into it. I don't think having an AI character makes the game any less scary or tense. I also think having a friend playing with you could still keep the game fairly tense, depending on how you play. Either way, though, I think co-op would have been nice to see. It would have heightened the experience a little bit, but not having co-op here, I don't think hurts the package. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Also, side note, little extra thing in the game, keep an eye out throughout the levels for masks. You can collect different masks for Mono, and through the pause menu, you can equip different ones. And it's nice to keep a sharp eye out for these things, as they are kind of rare. I really like the default baghead look, and I kept that most of the game, but I appreciate the options to look a bit different, and I liked hunting for the masks throughout the game. Visually, the game feels much bigger and on a grander scale than the original game, thanks to larger locations and larger and weirder enemies. It doesn't just feel like a sequel going bigger because it's a sequel. It actually kind of heightens a bit of the existential dread and really makes you feel even smaller in this weird world. There's a lot more going on in the art direction and environmental design, and it makes it worth experiencing, especially just because like the game gives you quite a few nice slow moments with nothing really going on, just letting you soak it in and absorb some of the equally great music and sound design. I can't recommend playing this one with headphones enough, dude. Some of the creaky old stuff, the random clatter in the background, the little slight musical cues you get for picking up an item or, you know, the reveal of an enemy, all of it really, really works here. Now, while I am on that though, I do want to point out, I guess accessibility-wise, if you're hearing impaired in any way, there's a puzzle in the game that relies on sound cues, and the game has no options or subtitles or anything to help with as of right now, so you could get stuck. You know, I'm hoping this game gets updated because I think everyone should experience this, but overall, it's a great little horror game. It's not very long, but it's insanely well-paced. You know, every scene, every scenario is different, introducing and playing with new horror tropes constantly, and you'll just be entertained as you play through, from the gameplay, even despite a few frustrations here and there, to just the look and the incredible atmosphere of the game. I know it's brief, and some folks may not want to jump in on day one for the price, and I completely understand, but I still just recommend playing it at some point no matter what. But of course, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes down by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Did you play the original game? What do you think of that? And are you excited to get your hands on this? There was a demo available. This game releases soon. We got a little bit early access to it, but we want to hear what you're thinking about Little Nightmares 1 and the new Little Nightmares 2. Let us know in the comments. But if you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.